if they force Biden out, I'm just not voting. And guess what? They didn't vote.
No shot there's that many people who actually care that Biden was forced out. I don't... Dude, people... Did you see the Google Trends graph for, like, who's on the ballot and, like, did Joe Biden drop out, like, peaked, like, the day before the election?
Wait, so when I'm saying that you're, like, doing the semantic game where you're using, like, hyperbolic language to say this, I would say Biden dropped out of his own free will because he didn't have the support and he did what was right for the nation and took one for the team. Like, this is aligns with just how we talk about elections, how we talk about people dropping out.
It became clear, right, to him that if he didn't, again, he would have no money, that the people who would run the campaign would abandon him.
Bro, wait, I just realized this is a little bit non-analogous, but Mark Robinson in North Carolina, after he got all the fucking porn scandal put out, there was a ton of pressure for him to drop out within the Republican Party.
That's it. See, you're doing it again, where you're saying it turned out to be wrong, and that didn't turn out to be wrong. You're just completely incorrect on this. So the only thing you said of consequence.
Hold on, who's presumptive nominee for the president-elect of the United States? Who is it? Is it Kamala Harris?
If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description.
Go ahead. You have some issues with my takes on Biden. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we were on a panel a little while ago where we were able to talk about this a little bit, but there were a lot of people there. I didn't want to commandeer the entire panel. Did you ever see, I put out a video called, like, liberals upset that Biden dropped out or something like that, and it's like a montage?
Sorry, I didn't watch the video. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know it existed until just this moment.
So I think one of the things that you say in there is that you were saying that on the panel, you said that you felt like Biden would have won, and that Kamala losing was like evidence that.
Oh, does he still think that?
I didn't want Biden to drop out initially, but I admitted that I was wrong later because the data showed pretty clearly that was the case. So first, I would like to hear what made you think that Biden would have won.
Okay,
so,
never mind.
We look at where Kamala lost, and we see where she lost ground. We see she lost ground in 3 critical states. So she lost ground everywhere, but there were 3 critical states, which were 2% difference, which I think that had that shifted, right, had it reversed, that we would be looking at President-elect Kamala Harris. She would have gotten to the 270 electoral votes, where she needed. Those 3 states are as follows: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, the Rust Belt, if you will, as it's colloquially referred to. Now, again, I don't have a meta-analysis or a study on this, but I do have people, at least in Pennsylvania, that I can vouch for, who at the time when Biden dropped out told me specifically, if they force Biden out, I'm just not voting. And guess what? They didn't vote. We can look at who turned out, who didn't. We can look at the reporting that shows, the exit polling that shows that out of those who are not.
No, I don't. No shot there's that many people who actually care that Biden was forced out. I don't. Dude, people... Did you see the Google Trends graph for, like, who's on the ballot and, like, did Joe Biden drop out, like, peaked, like, the day before the election?
Not the exit polling. My bad. The polling, they asked people who didn't vote, hey, what affiliation are you? Are you moderate? Are you liberal? Are you conservative? The vast majority of people who reported in this poll who didn't vote were moderate, 27%, right? Whereas as opposed to 6% of liberals who stayed home and I think 13% of conservatives who stayed home. The vast majority were moderates. My argument here is that Biden appealed to moderates in a way that Kamala simply didn't. And a lot of people saw what was done to Biden and simply, at least in Pennsylvania, stayed home. Because Pennsylvania tends to track with Wisconsin and with Michigan, I'm extrapolating, and I admit I might be wrong on my extrapolation. That's fair, right? But I'm extrapolating that data to show, oh, in Michigan's case and in Wisconsin's case, there's probably people who feel the same. I could be wrong. That's my evidence. There you go. It's not strong evidence. Well, I'll cede to that right away. It's not strong evidence, but sure. It's what I'm using.
I'm not even worried about that. Okay, so this is another issue that I had. Okay, so when you talk about, and we probably have to cover this first. So when you talk about what was done to Biden.
Yep.
I don't think anything was done to Biden. Nothing was done. Nothing. Yeah. So you call it getting forced out. I call it dropping out. And what you call getting forced out is what we always call dropping out, where there is not enough support and there's political pressure, or there's not, they don't have enough votes, or they don't feel like they can win, to where they have to drop out to cede the candidacy to somebody else so that they're able to take the reins. This is what we always call dropping out, but you for some reason choose to call it force out. Why?
Coercive pressure was applied in such the case that Biden did not consent willingly to it, and we can look at the 3 prongs of pressure. We can look at a bunch of donors saying we are no longer going to donate to your campaign unless you drop out. We can look at Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, assuming this reporting is accurate, which again I think it is.
Hold on, I gotta clarify the first one. You can't say we're no longer going to donate to your campaign unless you drop out. Whereas if he dropped out, they're no longer donating to his campaign. They're donating to somebody else's. So it's not unless you drop out. That is added in there. Yes, that is added in there to make it sound.
I think they did. I think technically it was the same campaign or whatever. I think they just renamed it. That's why Kamala Harris was the easiest that's why Kamala Harris had access to, would be the only candidate that had access to the donor money, right? Wasn't that, remember when that was the big issue? Was that if someone other than Kamala ran, they wouldn't have access to all the donor money. They would have had to be converted to a PAC, which can't coordinate with the campaign.
Coercive. That is very different. But yeah, go ahead.
No, they said we are going to stop donating to whoever's campaign, the Democratic leader's campaign, unless you drop out. And I think that's coercive, right? Now you can imagine it's their free right to do it, and it is. Again, my claim here isn't that people did anything illegal. I don't think anything illegal was done here. I think it was all within the rules. But I do think
that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether or not it's different
coercive
from
pressure,
anybody
yeah.
else dropping out. I would need to get an example of something that's different from somebody else
give me
dropping
another
out, 'cause
example
this
of
sounds
someone
normal.
dropping out recently of a race.
Well, I would think
In the
of
last 10
like
years.
every let's go back to like the 2020 election where we had like 20 something Democratic candidates,
When the primary was rigged against Bernie.
and almost all of them drop out like right after
Yeah,
Super
none of them were
Tuesday.
the presumptive
And-
nominee.
Correct, but
That
that's
changes things.
kind of
That's
the
what
point, though.
makes it
But that,
different. Because he had
well,
won.
but this is what people use the same like arguments about like why Bernie was treated so unfairly and blah blah blah, but he wasn't. And they say they're like, oh, he was forced out. They all this was all coercion.
I
The
agree, it
DNC is
wasn't
corrupt,
forced
but he
out in
didn't.
his
It was
thing.
normal.
He just lost.
It was yes. He just lost. Like
He
that
just
was it.
lost,
He
yeah.
just lost. He didn't have the votes. He didn't have the,
What's the
and
difference?
everybody else dropped out for the same reason. They didn't have the support. They did, which means
No,
when
no,
we
no,
say
no.
they didn't have the
didn't have the
support,
vote.
hold on, wait. When they say they didn't have the support, we mean that they didn't have enough donations. They didn't have enough of the vote. They didn't have enough of the other like
Nope.
Biden already won the vote at that point. Like,
We only won
politicians
vote.
who were backing them.
We mean
No,
they
no,
have
no.
votes. That's the only thing we mean.
No,
When you're
'cause-
in the context of the
wait,
primary.
hold on.
That's the only thing we
Okay,
mean.
then why did you
We
say
don't
presumptive
care.
nominee? Why did you say that?
The
What is
presumptive
the
nominee
presumptive?
because he had achieved the votes necessary to obtain the nomination, which he had.
Yes, but that's for a reason. The reason
Bernie
is
did
because
not.
he had so
Bernie never
he
did.
had backing. Yes, Bernie didn't have any of these other things. He didn't have the backing of the Democratic Party. He didn't have like the amount of politicians backing him that were backing Biden. He didn't have the amount of money that Biden had. He just actually no, I think he had more. Actually, I think he may have had. I think he may have set a record that year for the most the most money. But anyways, the point is that he
what do you think would have happened if Bernie had been chosen as VP and was the nominee against Trump this time? Bernie's old too. I don't know. I think Bernie's probably too far left for most people. I don't think it would have gone much better. I think there would have been. I mean, Wick just mentioned the number of moderates who stayed home because he doesn't think Kamala appealed to them. They probably would have stayed home as well. And I don't know if that would be offset by the. I mean, I'm sure Bernie could mobilize a lot of fucking like Gen Z or millennial people that, Kamala and Biden just aren't going to do. But I don't know if that would offset all the like moderate boomers who stay home. I don't know.
he didn't have the support, and he wasn't going to get the votes, and he didn't, he couldn't win, and so eventually he dropped out and just backed
Yes, because
Biden,
he couldn't win the
which
votes to
everybody
get the
did.
presidential nominee. Absolutely.
Yes,
Biden had
right.
the votes to get the presidential nominee. That's the difference. That's
Well,
why I
yes,
treat these
get the
things
presidential
differently.
nominee.
Let me finish. Let me finish, please. That's the distinction that matters in these cases, right? In these other cases that you're citing of other people dropping out because they didn't have the votes, Biden had the votes, and that is the one metric that we use. We don't check their donations. We don't check how many endorsements they get. The only metric that we use in the primaries to determine who gets to be the presidential or the presumptive nominee was the votes. That's the only thing that matters in this case. And in Biden's case, for the 2024 primary, he achieved the necessary votes to get the presidential, the presumptive nomination for our party. That's the only metric that matters.
But he did it without a primary. Like, there was no primary, and there was no like figuring out who the best nominee was. And so because they didn't have a primary and they didn't go through that primary,
I mean, there technically was a primary, not in some states, but
this is how
I voted in the primary.
But they didn't. They didn't run a primary. Okay, like they didn't actually run a full primary with candidates running against him.
There
and
were
people
other
trying
candidates I
to,
could have voted.
in
There
debates and
candidates did
everything.
run against him.
There were. Okay. So same for Kamala then. Same for Kamala. Kamala had a primary. Tons of people could have run against him. They were all able to be nominated at the Democratic convention. Just nobody did. Nobody ran against her, and Biden could have stayed in. He could have kept running
Kamala,
and
the
run against
reason
her,
that I
but he didn't.
voted was because Kamala was the nominee and she did it that way, right? If they had some kind of like floor convention where no one voted except for the superdelegates or whatever, and they elected someone that wasn't even on the ticket, then I would have stayed home, and I said so at the time because that would have been throwing my vote away. But I could follow the logic of, well,
some of my family voted for Trump, but says they would have voted for Bernie because he's also anti-establishment. I know it's just an anecdote. That is true. We do have there are a surprising number of like Bernie Trump supporters because both of them are like anti-establishment. I don't know. Actually, maybe, man. Maybe in this world, it would have worked. It would have worked.
she was Biden's pick. She was Biden's she was on the ticket, right? So I did technically vote for her. I didn't like it. I still don't like it, but I followed that logic.
And Biden said,
like, okay, yeah.
Biden said when he was elected that he was going to be a one-term
Oh, he
president.
shouldn't have won. He shouldn't have sought for renomination. I agree with you, but he did. Like,
So-
no, I
so
agree
here's
with
the-
you that
here's
in
the
a
thing,
perfect
though.
ideal world,
Your
let me
thought
finish.
process,
Like,
your thought process, if we got into the general elections,
Okay.
I would agree with. But because we were not in the general elections yet, and we had a month and a half before the general elections, before the Democratic convention was held to pick who was the nominee, I felt like it was fair, and it was like, yeah, the only thing they could do in that situation. One of the things that you said when in the video was that it was NBC polling showed that Americans wanted Biden to stay in the race, that most Americans didn't want him to drop out.
Democrats to be specific. I remember the poll. I don't have it on the top of my head, right? But I remember looking at the poll the day he dropped out, because that was a big question at the time. What did the Democratic voters
It took
want?
me a while to find it. It was an old poll. It was from like February, and
No, it was. I'm
uh,
not citing. Then that's the wrong poll that you're looking at. The poll I'm citing was one that was released the day of, right? That's either the day before or the day of that specific day.
the ones that were so
I'd have
we
to
went through the
look at it.
NBC poll that was released that day, and that one showed it was at like 70 something or 80 something percent of Americans wanted, or Democrats wanted them to drop out.
There was only ever a single poll that said that. Every other poll had it much closer to 50-50. And the poll I was citing was not a CBS poll. It was like an ABC. It wasn't.
You said NBC at the time, I thought, but
I'd have to
me
look.
and somebody took like an hour to find it because we couldn't find anything that was less than 70%, and then
you weren't
we
looking.
finally found. And it wasn't.
Okay,
And
I'll
you
do
said
this. Let's see if I
whatever
can
you
do
said,
this.
it was CBS or NBC, but whichever one you said, yeah, we took a very long time to find it, and there was only one poll that had anything close to
When
that
did you
number.
look for
And
this?
it was from.
Because that would matter. Like if you were looking for
It
this
was,
in December, or I'm
It was
sorry,
a couple days
November.
after you said it.
Oh,
It was a couple
days,
days
and you
after
should
you
have
said
been
it.
able to find it.
Yeah.
Hold on.
And we did searches based on
in
date as well, but
2024.
that's why we couldn't find it at first. Is because we were doing it based on date. Once
There
we
is a single.
stopped doing it
Again,
based on date.
there's a single poll, right, that everyone's looking, and I see this reported, and this is, again, part of my coercive narrative that we'll get to. We haven't gotten to this point. There's a 3 prongs. This is a 3rd prong, the fucking media, the podcasting class, because they all cited that goddamn
The
poll.
podcasting
That
class.
was one poll and a sea of other polls that said differently. And so, yes, if you do Google it, you say, most Democrats want to drive Biden out. And I'm looking at the New York Times, AP News, Axios, BBS, all these, but they're all citing the same poll, right? And it's wild. And again, like the poll I was looking at the time, I don't have it at the thing, I will look for it, right, showed that 53% of Democrats wanted Biden to stay in. Now, nationally, right, when you look at Democrats and Republicans, it might have been different, but frankly, for the Democratic primary, I don't care what the Republicans think. Just frank.
Yeah.
And again, we had been through the process. You might not like the process, but the rules as written shows, right, that whoever gets the most primary votes gets to nominate. He becomes a presumptive nominee. But again,
Unless they drop out.
Yes, but why did he drop out? He dropped out under coercive pressure from Biden.
But nothing you mentioned is coercive yet. This is all, again, the same as it always is for everybody else who dropped out. As
okay,
we
none of them also had none of them had the presumptive nomination. None of these, Bernie never had the presumptive nomination. None of them ever reached.
Well, again, but he didn't have but he didn't have people running against him. That's what I'm talking about. There was nobody else there. So when they said that he was going to drop out, they said that they were going to do a primary. Kamala immediately came out, but she had way more money than everybody else because she had his campaign donations, and none of them had a fucking chance. None of them were going to try to run against her in a pseudo primary to try to get the nomination at the DNC when she already had so much freaking money right out the gate. She was running commercials day one.
Like Dean Phillips ran against him, Marianne Williamson ran against Biden. Like there were people who were running against Biden for the Democratic Party. I think
Marianne Williamson is
Well, that was early on in the primary.
Party,
that was
she's not like I'm talking.
that was against Biden, not against Kamala Harris. Once Biden had already dropped out. Like,
about people who are who have actually won elections and are politicians, part of the DNC, congressmen, senators, like people who would actually win elections, and that yes, he did not have anybody who was actually running.
you don't think Marianne Williamson would win? What do you mean, bro? She was on Hassan's stream, man.
Yeah,
She's got
he
the Hassan vote locked in.
Because he didn't have to. There was no real competitor. But if Kamala Harris was running from the beginning,
neither did what's his fucking face? Neither did Trump. Trump never debated any one of those fuckers, right? But you would never say that the Republicans didn't have a primary. Obviously they did, but Trump never showed up to the debates. Why would he? Does that mean they didn't have a primary?
No, I would say that there was a primary, but they did hold debates, and those people debated each other. Whereas I don't think Marianne Williamson was out there debating. I don't even know who else the fuck ran besides her. But yeah, Donald Trump also, nobody questioned whether or not he should have run again. Nobody questioned whether or not he was going to win. Nobody questioned whether or not he was going to be the best candidate.
Whether he should have run again. Like a lot of people during the time were questioning whether or not Trump should run again from the Republican side. There's a lot of people who had that question.
Okay, it's not in comparison to Biden. Not in comparison to Biden. Even people who were upset that Biden dropped out still didn't think that he should have run again. And he was obviously declining a lot faster than Trump was. So it was just a very different issue.
Given the process that we had, right? Given the process that we had, that the voters were given, at least the Democratic primary voters, they were said, these are your options. It was more than one. It was more than just Joe Biden. And we had a vote. We went to the polls. We put in our ballot box, and the result was that based on that, right, that Biden was a presumptive nominee. But because people didn't like that on the podcasting class, a lot of people in the media didn't like that. There were a lot of people who wanted Biden to drop out for, you could say, good reasons even, right? They pushed him and they pushed him and they pushed him and they coerced him out. They absolutely did. He did not want to drop out. He fought against being dropped out, but he eventually was coerced out. He succumbed to the pressure. And I do blame Biden for that, to be clear. I think Biden should not have succumbed to that pressure, but he did. And that's a mark against him. So I'm not here to like gargle his balls or anything or say he never did anything wrong. I think that was a wrong step. He should not have let them force him out, but he did. And that's on him. He should have stood strong.
Okay. I think that you're purposefully like using different language like coercion and forced out and things like that for things that are just they're just the most normal things in the world. Everybody has like political pressure when they drop out. Everybody has well. So think about the primaries. Okay, when you're saying that they don't have the votes, they don't have help. That doesn't mean they have to drop out. They can finish the race. They can wait and see. They could have a chance. They could actually do better in the other states and actually end up on top. You never know. Like wait and see. But they don't ever do that.
They have a math problem where they actually can't, right? Like this was a big thing in the 2008 primary between Clinton and Obama. There came a point where Clinton just didn't have the votes, right? They couldn't. It was mathematically impossible for her to get the delegates needed in order to surpass Obama at the time, and so she eventually dropped out, right, because of that.
But it doesn't mean you have to drop out. You can still stay in.
She didn't have to, no. But that's a much different situation where had again Obama had or Clinton, if she had gotten that number where she was a presumptive nominee, and then Obama had forced her out or pressured her out or went through a different mechanism other than voting in order to get her to resign. That
should have happened.
And that would have been wrong. Again, all these other examples you're citing me, Bernie, etc., right? These people lacked something that Biden had, which I think makes a big difference, which is he had the majority, the plurality of votes that he needed to secure the presumptive nomination. And that's my big issue with this, is the will of the voter.
Did you say the difference was with Clinton? I'm still stuck on that. What did you say the difference was with Clinton?
Clinton never had the votes. At least in the 2000s.
Yeah, but you said that
specifically. Not talking about the 2016.
Was that she didn't have coercive pressure.
Whereas,
no. Again. Okay.
The difference in the 2008 primary was she never had the votes needed. And so she didn't resign because of coercive pressure. She resigned because she didn't have the votes needed. Whereas Biden was a very different example. He had the votes needed, right? He won, right? The will of the voter.
Yeah,
the will of the primary voter was he won.
Around the time that he dropped out, isn't that around the same time that Hillary dropped out? Aren't these don't these coincide with one another?
I would have to look at the timing for 2008. I don't know off the top of my head exactly when Clinton gave dropped out. I think it was much earlier though, because I don't know for so don't quote me on that.
So when I'm saying that you're like doing the semantic game where you're using like hyperbolic language to say this, I would say Biden dropped out of his own free will because he didn't have the support and he did what was right for the nation and took one for the team. Like this is aligns with just how we talk about elections, how we talk about people dropping out, how we talk about what it is.
He's not. Oh wait, Hanzo was in the chat. This motherfucker been sleeping for 12 hours. I didn't realize. I just clicked on the YouTube thing and saw that. I mean, like, obviously, the only thing, vote isn't the only thing that matters. Like, was it 2020 where, like, Bernie, I think Super Tuesday, yeah, it must have been 2020, because Biden did pretty well in Super Tuesday, and Bernie did not do that well in Super Tuesday. I think technically Bernie still could have won at that time. But he dropped out anyway. Like, obviously it does matter whether you have the support of the party. Part of the reason why, powerful people in the party, like part of the reason the 2016 primary didn't have many people in it. It only had Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and there were like 3 other people or whatever, compared to usually there's like 10 plus people at the beginning. It was because no one wanted to run against Hillary Clinton because they all knew Hillary Clinton had the support of all the powerful people in the Democratic Party. And that's why Hillary Clinton was ordained the nomination, despite the best efforts of Bernie Sanders. But obviously these things matter, but I mean, like, clearly more pressure is put on Biden to drop out than is usually put on like primary candidates to drop out. Although, like, maybe, I mean, obviously it takes more pressure to push Biden out because he already won the primary. He was already the presumptive nominee. So
is that what it is that happened all the time? Whereas, yes, I just feel like yours is very like.
But like in a regular like primary, like if Democratic voters and supporters don't or PACs even. I'm pretty sure PACs would do this. Like if they don't think a candidate in the primary can win anymore, they're probably gonna stop donating to that candidate and start donating to their candidate they next prefer. Right? Like this is like if I don't remember enough people in the primary. I don't know. I probably would have presume that I favor Pete Buttigieg. I do like Pete, but I don't know if I favor him over everyone else. But If I'm donating to Pete Buttigieg and Pete Buttigieg drops out, well, then I might just start donating to like Biden, right? Like, obviously, again, there was a level of level of this pressure put on Biden that I don't think we've seen before, because Biden was already the presumptive nominee.
It's more about your vibes. You're upset that like he didn't stay in because you wanted him to stay in, and then because he dropped out, you're just using more hyperbolic language to talk about it. Whereas it's just he just dropped out. He chose to drop out. He could have stayed in. You acknowledge this. He could have stayed in if he wanted to. Yes, nobody was going to stop him. Nobody was going to.
I think that yes, he could have, but it became clear, right, to him that if he didn't, again, he would have no money. That the people who would run the campaign would abandon him. But that is a fundamental different situation, right? And this is why I consider it coercive, right? Because there's a fundamental difference between realizing that you don't have the votes in order to secure the nomination. So because of that, you decide, you know what, I'm going to step down. I don't have the votes I need.
Bro, wait, I just realized this is a little bit non-analogous, but Mark Robinson in North Carolina, after he got after all the fucking porn scandal put out, the tranny porn scandal, he there was a ton of pressure for him to drop out within the Republican Party. One, he had I think three of his senior campaign managers quit, right? They just resigned. And two, the Republican Party said, if you don't drop out, we're gonna stop, giving you ad money, right? Because the National Republican Party would give Mark Robinson money to run ads on a state level, and they said, if you don't drop out, we're gonna stop giving you money. There's a ton of pressure put on Mark Robinson to drop out. Now our Chad hero Mark Robinson, okay, absolute GOAT, did not drop out, guaranteeing Josh Stein the the Democratic governorship. Thank you, Mark Robinson. I love Mark Robinson so much. But that's clearly these things happen. Again, Biden took more pressure to get Biden out because Biden had already been a presumptive nominee, but
I'm going to step down. That's a fundamentally different thing than securing the votes and then having the media, having Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and others behind the scenes wage a whisper campaign against you and push against you to pressure and force you out. I think there's a fundamental difference between these two events. And I think that one is...
But if
hold on, I'm not done. Okay, and so Biden did what was bad for the country, because what this does is it opens a Pandora's box. It risks, and I'm not saying it did, but there is a risk of what Biden did, of it normalizing. What happens next in 2028 when we have a candidate that we do have a primary, everyone votes for it, and this one person clearly wins, and then a month later, after they are the presumptive nominee and the voting process stops, which it will well before the nomination, right? A couple months before the nomination. What happens when something comes out? So the podcaster class, media elites, and other elites in the party say, we don't want you. We're just going to force you out.
No shot.
I think that, again, the precedent that Biden set by giving into that sets a precedent that is going to be bad for the Democratic Party. It's going to erode trust among Democratic voters, that they will listen to our voice and our will. And I think that is a terrible, terrible situation. And again, the selling point for this in 2024 was that, well, we need to beat Trump, right? This is the only way to beat Trump. Biden can't do it. Kamala can. So we have to do this way. That was the selling point. Everyone was pushing this. Biden can't win. Kamala can. That turned out to be wrong, right? So we didn't get any benefit, and it's just all negative here.
That's it. You see, you're doing it again, where you're saying it turned out to be wrong, and that didn't turn out to be wrong. You're just completely incorrect on this. So the only thing you said of consequence.
Hold on, who's presumptive nominee for the president-elect of the United States? Who is it? Is it Kamala Harris? Or is it Trump?
See, you are doing what I said at the beginning. You're doing it again. I said at the beginning, you're doing this thing where you're saying he lost, therefore Biden would have been the better pick. That does not make sense. You're doing it again. That is not logical whatsoever. Okay, so what you said, one thing of consequence and all of that. I tried stopping you on it, but you said Biden dropped out because of all the whispers
where you try to connect two things. I said that I did say both of these things, that you're connecting them when I'm not connecting them. You are connecting them. Right? You were saying that the fact that Kamala won or didn't win is proof that Biden would have won, and that's not true. Because I think Kamala won.
You literally just said that.
Oh my God! No, I did not.
We can replay it.
Okay, we can replay it.
I will tell you what I said.
Okay, I will go on.
I will tell you what.
Okay, to be fair, I don't think Wick said exactly that, but I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but the internal polling for Biden, if I look up Biden internal polling House seats. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Was it this? What's up?
We complied it. What do you mean?
What?
It's of course we complied it.
Yeah. I don't. Didn't he? I think at the beginning he said.
I was like, imagine I don't know. Imagine there's a marathon and I don't have my shoes on. Then I put my shoes on, and then I lose the marathon. Someone asks me, someone tells me like, it was a wrong decision to put the socks on. And I ask them like, what do you mean? It's like, wait, yes or no? Did you did you win the race? Like if they say that, obviously, right? They're trying to imply that the fact that you won the race is the reason, implies that you shouldn't put your shoes on, right?
Yeah, but I think at the beginning Wick said that he doesn't believe that Biden would have won anymore. I thought he said that at least. I hope he said that because I think at the beginning, Wick said I think at the beginning Wick said oh yeah, I guess he could, yeah, but I think Wick said I thought Biden would have won at first because I know people in Pennsylvania who stayed home because Biden wasn't the candidate, but I'm just not.
Really? Okay, that's crazy. But okay. I mean, I don't know. I've seen Wick say it before, but maybe he changed his mind in 2 weeks. That's possible. But I just don't. I don't know. I don't know. His position is. I don't know. All the people who think it was wrong to pick Kamala ran a near perfect campaign, in my opinion. It's just the Democrats. A lot of it is voters. A lot of it is voters. Where I guess you don't run a good campaign if the voters are retarded, then you don't appeal to that. But God, Kamala was really good. She would have done. She did way better than Biden would have. I don't know how anyone can say otherwise. I don't know. But yeah,
I don't think so.
Whatever. Yeah. Well, then okay. But I think he said it. Let's see if he keeps saying it. But okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Stayed home, and I think 13% of conservatives who stayed home. The vast majority were moderates. My argument here is that Biden appealed to moderates in a way that Kamala simply didn't, and a lot of people saw what was done. Michigan.
But there were a lot of people there. I didn't want to commandeer the entire panel. Did you ever see? I put out a video called liberals upset that Biden dropped out or something like that, and it's a montage.
Sorry, I didn't watch the video. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know.
There is that Biden would have won, and that Kamala losing was evidence.
He gives a thumbs up, but then I think he said
we chose
that he changed his mind after the data came out or whatever.
I didn't want Biden to drop out initially, but I admitted that I was wrong later because the data showed pretty clearly that was the case. So first, I would like to hear what made you think that Biden would have won.
So we look at where Kamala lost, and we see where she lost ground. We see she lost ground in 3 critical states. So she lost ground everywhere.
But there were. So it was Tomfoolery saying that you said
that I was wrong. I said I didn't want her to. I didn't want Biden to drop out initially, but I admitted that I was wrong later because
we look at where Kamala lost, and we see where.
Oh wait, no, Wick doesn't agree with that. Never mind.
Right? Had it reversed, that we would.
Never mind. I thought Wick agreed with that, but I don't think he did. Okay. So it does seem like he implied that later on.
What? Hold on. Shut up. I will tell you what you said, and then you can tell me if this is correct or not. I said you don't know that, or I said him being out does not mean that he would have that he would have done better, that they were wrong. I said it doesn't mean that they were wrong. You are completely incorrect on that. And then you said, who is the presumptive nominee right now?
No,
that's what you said as an argument against what I said.
That's not what you said. That's not what you said at the time. You said that, man, see, you're doing this thing where you've interrupted me, and now I'm trying to remember exactly and precisely what you said, but you made the claim, as I understand it, and I might not be using your exact words here, forgive me for that, but you were making the claim that, because we talked about how, and I was talking about how the promise that was made, the argument that was made at the time was that Kamala Harris was the reason we should push Biden out was because Biden can't win and Kamala can. That was the argument made. And I said, that turned out to be wrong. And you said, no, it wasn't. It's true. And then I asked you, who's the president-elect?
Right.
And again, I'm saying that turned out to be a faulty argument. It wasn't true. She couldn't win. She didn't.
Okay. Just real quick. You understand that she could have a much better chance. She could have 100 times better chance at winning and still lose. You acknowledge this, yes?
Perhaps, yes.
Okay, yes. So saying
Perhaps.
Donald Trump's the presumptive nominee does not mean anything. It's not relevant. And you did bring that up in turn to me saying that.
I've not seen any convincing evidence that she actually had better chance of Biden.
Okay.
How you doing? I'm doing pretty good, Ophelia. What's up with you?
I plan on getting to that. So you said Biden dropped out because of all the whispers behind the scenes.
There's a lot. There's a 3-pronged assault, right? From the media, from people behind the scenes, and then there was the kind of like the donors. That was the third one. The donors pulling out, right? That was the three.
Yeah, you're just like, but again, you're using this like you're using this hyperbolic language where it's like these people don't think he can win, and they feel like they would have a better chance with Kamala. And
oh wait, and also, I forgot to mention this earlier. Did you get more sleep? Yeah, I got a lot of sleep last night. I slept for like 12 hours last night because I'm based. Anyway, I forgot. The corporate media rigged it against Bernie too. So this is clearly the same type of pressure, applied to any anti-establishment candidate like Bernie Sanders, where all the media, all the corporate funded media is rigged against him too.
Instead of saying
you got to consider that
this is a three-pronged assault. The whispers behind the scenes, blah blah blah.
Yes.
It wasn't behind the scenes. It was out in the open. Everybody was very clear. They didn't want him. They didn't think he could win. They thought he should drop out.
The frontal. The whisper campaign was behind the back. That was to the various other politicians and things like that. AOC spoke about this.
I think that they were talking behind. Yes, she was talking about the fact that they were talking about whether or not they were going to be public about this, and that the fact that like they were all kind of like trying to get him to drop out without it being public and without having to like say anything out in the open.
That would be behind the back.
But the fact that yes, but I think that that's how they should do it though. Like you're saying this as though that's like.
Do we think? Do we think these things don't happen? I mean, it might be the first time it has happened to the president, but like. I don't know, like AOC was just trying to, be on the House Oversight Committee, right? And like all these conversations happened between closed doors. All this politicking happened between closed doors. I don't think most of this stuff was public. I mean, we might get reports from time to time from like media who, quotes anonymous sources close to what's happening, but
like sneaky, but it's not. That is what they ought to do. It would be wrong if they didn't even talk to him first, if they didn't try to get him to drop out behind the scenes first, and instead just came out against him. And that would have been way worse. They did the right thing in that case, but you word it in this very in this way that makes it sound malicious.
It was malicious. They wanted him.
It was
to get
not.
Out.
They didn't think he had a good chance of winning, so they wanted him to drop out so that they could get a better candidate in. That's not malicious.
They wanted to get him to drop out. Yes.
Yes.
Against the will of the Democratic primary voter. That was the malicious part.
Well, again, him running in the first place was was part of that problem. So he was also part of that issue. And then the fact that they let him run, they didn't do anything about it. They just let him run. Nobody really stood up against him. And then it just wasn't working out. So now we can get to the numbers.
You're totally ignoring the fact that he received the most votes in the process that we had. He received.
You're talking about in 2020?
In 2024. He received the most votes of any candidate that put their name out there to run in the Democratic nomination. He received the most votes.
No, I'm not
the will
ignoring
was perfectly clear. And the fact that these people were trying to go against the will of the Democratic primary voter is why it's malicious. And why it's
no, I'm not ignoring that, but you and I both know that
that's the most important thing of all this, right? That's the biggest argument I have. That's the thing you have to address. Why do people who aren't, like they had their chance to run, they chose not to. They had their chance to put up other candidates, they chose not to, right? Why should they get a larger say than the Democratic voter?
So
wait. What do you mean they chose not to, Wick? They were coerced not to because of the corporate media was already behind Biden, and the donors were all already behind Biden. There were no donors giving to other primary candidates at first. What do you mean, Wick? They were coerced. They were coerced.
You and I both know that it is like considered bad taste to have actual DNC or like party representatives running against an incumbent. Like that is not something that we really do.
But it is not forbidden.
Yes, it is not.
AKA, they're coerced.
Yeah, Trump didn't really.
Owned.
I can't think of anybody that he ran against in 2020. I can't even.
Trump? You can't think of anyone Trump ran against in 2020?
Yeah, because he was in the White House at the time.
Either, but no, it is the tradition. But again, it's not a rule, nor is it.
Sure, it's not a rule, but it is. Yes, it is. So they didn't put nobody who's actually.
It wasn't a rule that Biden had to drop out. Like Wick already conceded on that front. Like Biden technically could have stayed in,
like part of the DNC and actually like a politician, none of them went out there and did anything. Biden had nothing to lose. If he wanted to stay in the race, if he wanted to keep going, he could have done it. He could have done it without any fucking donors. He already had like, enough name. He had enough name recognition, and he was the incumbent. He literally just could have stayed in. Your thought process makes it to where like that is the only thing that would have made sense. Yet he didn't do that. He dropped out, which to me means he did actually want. Okay, but this is different than like he was forced out again or coerced out or anything like that. Because to me, it is all these people who don't believe he has a chance, and regardless of whether or not you think they were right or wrong, they don't think he has a chance, and so they are counseling him to drop out for the best to do the best thing for the Democrats, and he was convinced eventually that this is what was necessary, and he did it.
But they weren't just doing that. if that was all they were doing behind closed doors, fair. But that's not what they were doing. They were leaking to the press and constantly to provide public pressure. They were working with the donors to get them to withdraw donors, all of which with the intent to put pressure on Biden to coerce him into dropping out. $5 from the Trib. Let me read some super chats, actually. Dan, give me more. Why is my goal being weird? I've had 3 $5 super chats since I bring up the goal, but it's only counting 1, and I don't know. $5 from Psalm Argus to say, thanks for the content, thanks for the Tom tent. You're welcome. $5 from Portland is Burning to say, what if a candidate wins the primary, then says the N-word on live TV? Should voters be stuck with the nominee anyways? 400 electoral votes. Let's go. Based. Okay. And then $5 from the Trib One to say, I think they saw the writing on the wall with Biden. He was losing
That's it. I don't know. It's an interesting hypothetical. What if we do? I mean, Mark Robinson won the primary, but the North Carolina GOP still tried to push him out. I think, honestly, if on a national level we had a fucking Mark Robinson, I don't know what the Democratic equivalent of Mark Robinson would be, because I don't know how many people would care if the well. There'd definitely be some people who care. I was going to say, I don't know how many people would care if a Democrat watched tranny porn, because like Democrats are typically more pro trans people or whatever, but people would still care. Like if we had the Democratic equivalent of that, I might want my vote to be tossed out at that point. I don't know.
Primary to the debate, and the debate was the straw on the camel. Is tricky. Yes, I think that the debate did push a lot of people over the edge on this, on where they stood, and fair enough. But again, it still doesn't change the fact that they were being coercive in how they were going about this. But continue, please, Tom. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to make.
Well, I will also take a second, because I'm only going to read one of these. It says it's from Infallible Foul. He said, "Sorry, wasn't trying to derail the Biden conversation. Glad lists him as transphobic. I don't know for sure. I see Wick waking up to the start of a new week saying, who on the left can I virtue signal about all this infighting cost us the election?" I don't think you and Wick will agree that infighting cost us the election. I don't agree with that.
First of all, there's a lot of factors of why we lost, right? Like, let me be clear. Kamala could have won. Like, I don't think she had 0 chance. She could have won if she had performed a little differently. I think it wouldn't have needed to be fairly different. There were, I think, 3 things she didn't do that if she had done or had done differently, I think it might be a different ballgame. Shapiro over Waltz, I think that was important. I think that at the time it sent a signal to people that she is willing to play ball with what a lot of people consider to be anti-Semitism. Whether you think that or not, it's a different question. But it did send a signal at the time, right, that she's willing to play footsie with some of the more anti-Semitic elements out there. I think also the fact that she never went on Joe Rogan, or she didn't do enough interviews, I think that was a big issue as well. And the third is, I
don't think the Joe Rogan interview alone would have done it, but like I think she did probably not do as much alternative media as she could have.
I think that she needed a Sister Soldier moment, and she never had one. And I think had she fixed any one of those 3, it might have been a different ballgame. Again, there may have been no chance. I don't know, right? But I'm just going off the best evidence I have. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was critical of her campaign from beginning to end, so I don't have much, but still think that she would have been better than Biden. So the language that you're using just doesn't make sense to me. So you're saying like whispers in the background again, and that they're putting this pressure on him. All of these things, no matter what, are pressure. We're getting rid of donors. It's always pressure. Getting rid of support within the DNC is always pressure. And this is normally how people come out and start running in the first place, is when they believe they're going to have enough donors, they're going to have enough people in the DNC supporting them, or whatever party they're in. And then that's when they are willing to announce a candidacy. He did it with those things kind of like assumed. And then over time, once they start dying off, they were dying off because this was like representative of America's feelings on things, especially after the debate. So when we look at the outcomes, way more people ended up voting in the election than we thought were. Like, we didn't think anywhere near that many were going to vote in this election. Like, we ended up having, I think it was like 10 to 15 million more people vote in this election than expected, maybe 20 million more. I
think, hold on, and I might be wrong on this. I never saw anyone claiming this would be a low turnout election.
Not low turnout. We still expected it to be up from like the others, except 2020 is obviously an outlier because
2020 was more than, but that was because of a lot of factors. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. So I didn't see
the voter fraud.
The election seemed, the turnout, at least election seemed expected, but I could be wrong. Again, I don't know.
So consider this: Donald Trump in 2016 won the election with 62 million votes. In this election, he won. I think he's at 76 million right now. So he is up.
Trump, yes.
Yeah, like what is that? 14 million votes from 2016 from the last time he won. So that is a massive jump.
Non-voters and voters are between those, right? Like,
and then just real quick, and then Kamala is now the second most voted Democrat of all time, and the third most voted candidate of all time.
Yeah, there's
just under again Well, again, that's only under the 2020 election. She's only
No,
losing
2016 I'm
to.
talking about. Well, that's what we're comparing.
I know.
Right?
I'm saying what I just said is that like she is now. If we take out the 2020 election, she is only second to Trump this election, and in the Democratic Party, she's second to Bill. She should be most voted.
Oh, is this me or you? Hold on, you're roboting. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, that was you went robot mode. Try again. Sorry.
Bruh.
We'll make a bit often. So, yeah, I'm saying that I was saying that we're talking about the turnouts being large, and I'm saying that if we get rid of the 2020 election, she is the most voted Democrat of all time by like almost 10 million votes.
But here, the thing is, in 2028, we're gonna have a new contender for that, right? Like because we'll grow in population size.
Yes, I'm just saying. I'm
So
just saying
asking
that
the
this was a
percentage.
bigger turnout.
No,
This-
that's why I'm
okay,
asking the
so
percentage turnout. How many of registered voters showed up in 2016 compared to 2024? That would be the thing I care about.
I don't know, but I know that there's only a 3 million difference between 2020 and this election. There's only 3 million difference in votes, overall votes. Like that's so again. So if we didn't expect the same turnout from 2020, even with more people, we still expected less. And then not only did we end up getting more, but we ended up getting a lot more. Like yeah, it was kind of.
Here. I got a voting turnout from 1828 to today. So in 2008, so we had 58% turnout. In 2012, we had it doesn't have 2024. Oh no. So in 2016, 55% of the voting population turned out, 55.7%. In 2008, for example, 58.
I think what did Biden's own? I don't know where to find. I don't know where to find a source for it. But I remember seeing again the Biden's internal polling, which had Democrats losing way more House seats than we actually lost because the argument is Kamala Harris probably turned that around. I would be curious how many people did Biden's campaign expect to turn out versus Kamala's campaign expect to turn out.
In 2012, 54%. Now, funnily enough, even though in 2008, 58%, the raw numbers were less than 2016, where we had 55%. I'll actually show you this on screen because it's very fascinating.
This is 64% for the turnout for this election.
Oh, can you link me that?
66% in 2020, 60% in 2016,
see, they're using
9% in 2012.
If they say 66% in 2020, this one says 60.8% in 2020. So I don't know. I have no idea.
When was that one? When was that one written?
Last updated on 11/17/2024.
11/17. Yeah, that should wait. Wait, maybe not. I can't remember. I think we just finished counting just
my point here.
2 weeks ago. But yeah, go ahead.
But my point here
I was
is
gonna
that
say
the
I
raw
don't think
total
that I
in
would
2008,
use.
even though the percentage total is higher, is less than the raw total in 2016, even though the percentage is lower, right? So we would expect that as we go, right, because America's population is growing.
Bro. Destiny on a stream right now, right? He's watching someone do a podcast or something. Someone's podcast. And they said, they're talking about like AI predictions and whatnot. And he's like, back then no one predicted the internet. And even, Paul Krugman said, like, blah, blah. And then Destiny, this based god, Destiny paused the video and said, like, no, he doesn't regret making it. I think the New York Times just went to a bunch of economists and said, make some really stupid, crazy predictions and whatnot. It wasn't a serious prediction, and like, no, he doesn't regret it. Like, it was almost perfect. Almost perfect. He should have just said, like, also he didn't say it, and he was correct. Like, once he said that, but he didn't. He should have, though. He should have. But yeah. But good to know that he knows. Good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
We will see
Thank
that the raw
God.
number is going to be just higher in 2028, even if the percentage number ends up being a little lower. So I mean,
Wait, hold on.
Does this argument make sense to you?
Wait. No, hold on. What do you mean the raw number? The raw number of
2008,
voters?
the raw number of voters was 131,000 versus 225,000 for the other
Million.
million. Million. My bad. Okay. 58 in the total here. The percentage total is 58.3% of registered voters. Right. In 2016, the numbers were 136 million and 245 million, and the percentage was 55.7%. So 136 is higher than 131. 245 is higher than 225. And 58 is higher than 55. So unless I'm reading this wrong, which I might be, I'm just looking at this right now. It seems to be that it just seems to be more voters because our population is growing.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Again, this is
I'm not denying. Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm so the thing that I'm looking at, it's wild that it came up with a larger percentage because this isn't about registered voters. This is about eligible voters. You would think if it did eligible voters, it would be a much smaller number, but somehow it came out with a much larger number. That doesn't. I don't know how that's possible versus yours, but I sent it to you.
Okay, I can look.
But
anyways, hello.
But anyways, yeah, I was gonna say we had Yeah, it says about 64% of voting eligible Americans voted in 2024. Preliminary data shows, and this is only second to 2020. Outside of that, yeah, it's normally less than 60%. So
just to let everyone see what you were looking at, here this is. You can see voter turnout by election cycle, but this is voting eligible population, and I wonder.
Yeah,
that's probably the difference.
But that,
but I don't.
But that should be a smaller percentage, not larger.
I don't know.
So yeah, it's
I don't know, dude. Like,
I would
okay,
have to look into.
Yeah, I will also have to look
sense.
into it more. But fair.
Either way, I just know that yes, versus like what we thought. Or how many people were going to vote versus how many ended up voting, that it ended up being a lot more. And the number went up when Biden dropped out because there were a lot of people who were saying that they weren't going to vote based on polling. People said they weren't going to vote when Biden was running. And then more people said that they were going to vote once Kamala was running. And so it just ended up being, even with that, even once we knew, okay, more people are voting now, we still outperformed that by a lot. And so it's kind of, it kind of just seems obvious to me.
I don't know. Have you considered Wick's 3 friends in Pennsylvania,
and I want to get
though?
into the specific states that you brought up as well. But yes, it just overall voter turnout just seemed to be very high and didn't seem to be an issue for her at all.
Well, again, right, like, I wish we had comparable numbers, but we don't. So it's hard for me to say much on this. So fair enough. I don't have the data to deal with this, right?
So then the other things that you brought up, the states like Michigan, she lost by like,
Michigan, the 3,
yeah, we barely lost in those states. Like overall, she lost by less than 250,000 votes. That's how much she lost by, 250,000 votes. And with the states, she did drop some other states that we expected her to get, but I would have expected that to be more, like more states drop that we would expect Democrats to just generally have. I would have expected that to be higher with Biden because of just, yes, the lack of excitement for the candidate that just wasn't there, but it was once Kamala came in. Like everybody was kind of like, oh, we got somebody.
I don't think that excitement was real. Or it might have been at least for the look, it's a change and everyone's more interested in the change, but I feel like that didn't translate into actual votes.
I think that was part of her campaign, though. Like, if we look at, so when we look at the polling,
she tried to push it. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, listen, if Wick can bring up his 3 friends, like I know Gen Z voters that definitely would not have, that were posting on their story about Kamala Harris and then went and voted for Kamala Harris. I don't think they were not doing the same for Joe Biden. I was the only one posting Joe Biden clips on my Instagram story, guys. They would not have voted for Joe Biden. So I don't know for sure some of them, but a lot of them would not have voted for Joe Biden, but they were willing to vote for Kamala. I'm sure there are these people out there. I don't have data on it.
Look, I'm different. I'm fresh. I'm new, right? And she tried to push that. I just don't think anyone bought it, or not enough people bought it.
I think they did early on, but when we look at the polling, she obviously skyrocketed. She was up by I think a total of 4 points nationally at one point. Obviously, we expected that to come down, but where it mattered was in the swing states. And I said before the election, I think it was 2.5 to 3 weeks out, that I thought Trump was going to win all 6 swing states. If you had asked me 2 months before that, I would have said Kamala's going to win like 4 out of 6 swing states, like easy. But yes, the closer we got, the more obvious it was that she was tanking. And she didn't tank out of nowhere. Normally, when you're looking at polling, you have to look at an aggregate, but you're trying to find some sort of like connection to what's happening, right? You want to find something that like gives you a reasoning behind why this would happen. And it just so happens to coincide with the same time that she started doing way more interviews. And they were not going well. Those interviews were not great. They did not go well. She may have been better just hiding in the fucking basement like Biden did in 2020. It would have been much better just doing that. But yes, her interviews were not good.
Here's a problem
she
with
just
this
continued
analysis,
dropping.
Though. One of the issues is, and this is what I was frustrated with at the time in July and in June, right, when people were making those calls for Biden to drop out. One of my frustrations with all of this was the fact that, like, and we can look back at other polling. I use RCP averages, right? That's the one I use because I keep all this data for years and years and years. And you can look at every time there's a gap, and as we get closer, it always narrows, always narrows, always narrows. Every single time it narrows, right? And that was obviously going to happen at this point as well, right? At least if it passed this prologue, then we would understand that the gap that Biden was experiencing was going to narrow. And we saw this play out with Harris as well. The gap narrowed, right? It was something we were basing our decisions on July polls, and we shouldn't have, because I don't think they were representative. I don't think it would have given us an accurate representation of how it was going to look in November. And that was my argument at the time, and I stand by that argument.
I understand that, but you also have to recognize that at the moment, you have to make a decision based on the information you have at the time. You can't make a decision in that moment based on information that you don't have. So they were at a critical juncture. They only have a month and a half before the DNC. This is like, it's now or never. If he's going to drop out, it has to be now. And so, yes, everybody decided, okay, our best bet is to just move him aside, run a pseudo primary, and allow the voters to pick somebody that they want to represent them. And that and then nobody else came out against Kamala because she was too far ahead. So it was like, I think if we look at everything that happened and based on how it happened, this was all just pragmatic decisions being made across the board. Everybody did the best they could. Kamala just wasn't a good candidate. And so like it is what it is, but she was still a better candidate than Joe Biden.
I just fundamentally disagree. It is almost 10, unfortunately. I'm sorry we got sidetracked a little bit at the beginning with the single stuff. You can come on again and talk to me about this again at any point, right? Like, I enjoyed the conversation. Gang, I'm going to let you tell people what you got coming up, but before I do, tomorrow we're going to be talking about D&D with Lucy Hayes, and that should be fun. Wednesday, we have the co-founder of Yimbies for Harris, Armand, coming on.
Oh, based.
The same concepts that me and Tom are discussing right now. Why did the Democrats lose? What happened? What can we do better as a party?
Oh, we're gonna talk about Yimby them. Okay, well,
guy, I'm excited.
lost because she wasn't Yimby enough.
This should be fun. And then,
Just to be clear, I don't think we can do anything better as a party. I think as a party, Democrats are fine. They don't need to change anything.
Anything? Nothing?
No, I think that inflation was the main thing. I think that like incumbents all over the world lost their seats everywhere except for I think literally like the only places like one country. I think it might have been Mexico, but literally the whole world.
I think even in Mexico, whatever, they still lost seats. I think Kamala actually lost to like the second least. I think it was a Financial Times, right? So if I look up Financial Times, incumbents elections. Kamala actually did fairly well relatively. Yeah, they all lost. So in Belgium, they lost by, or I don't know exactly vote share. So the vote share decreased by 3.1, Kamala 3.7. Like, I don't know, maybe Mexico had their election later and it's not on here or something, but
lost their seats because of inflation from COVID to where, and that's the same reason that Trump lost in 2020 is because of COVID. If without that, he would have won. But again, incumbents all across the world lost their seats because when people feel like they're in like a state of depression, they don't feel like things are good, they're just going to blame it on the president. They just are, regardless of whether or not it's his fault. Biden did better than any other country with inflation, yet he still gets blamed just because people feel bad. And it happens.
I think that is an analysis that we accept at our peril. But fair enough. What do you got coming up, Tom?
I've got a video essay coming out. Probably whenever I end stream, most likely. It's I was a radio show host that I talked to recently, and when I talked to him, he hung up on me and like made up a bunch of lies about me after I left, which was really strange. But he had this like whole.
Should I do that, gang? Should I hang up on Tom and then start making stuff up?
It was mainly one thing that was just kind of weird, but it's you'll have to watch the video to see it. But the main thing that like I go over throughout this video is this guy is just like very representative of my problems with MAGA right now, where they're mad that people keep saying that they're like uneducated voters or that they don't know what they're talking about or that they don't understand the concepts and shit like that. But then they also
but that's true. That's all based.
Demonize people using academic language. Demonize people trying to describe the context, concepts and like talk about what these things mean and crap like that. They demonize all intellectuality, and then also act like victims when people treat them like
so
people
your video is
disrespect intellectuality. Yes, it's kind of going over a lot of these
and it's going to be
issues.
released after we're done here.
Yeah, in the morning. Like I just started stream when we started talking, so like I normally end stream around like somewhere between like 4 and 6 a.m. most of the time. So yeah.
Okay, gang, check him out. Thanks for being here. I know we fight and we disagree on this, but you know it's okay. We can disagree and not tear each other's throats out. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you taking the time to discuss with me. Thank you.
What's up, Cruiser Music?
Yeah,
welcome back.
And for everybody else, yes, this is a very late conversation. We did discuss having it I think weeks ago, and so we just both got kind of busy. We didn't say like, oh, you know what? It's halfway through December. Let's talk about what happened a month and a half ago, dude. Let's do that. Like we didn't do that. You know?
Well, people always come at me for this take, so I'm expecting that next week, the week after, there's gonna be someone being like, oh, let's come at you for this take. But I will stand on this hill. I think I'm correct. Check him out, Tomfoolery Show on YouTube.
Seems like that model made by. Listen, maybe this is just econ brain, okay? But like. That model made by The Economist, not like The Economist newspaper site, but made by Economist newspaper site, got it exactly right, and it was using inflation and unemployment data, and I think a few other things, but all economic metrics in every state, and like If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.